Looking for a fast way to track what's moving online right now? Head over to Qnotables.com. It's a centralized index of notable clips, headlines, and references being shared across the community, organized for quick browsing. Use it to spot patterns, pull links, and build your own research list. Qnotables.com. Browse the notables, verify the facts, stay informed. All reports can be found on qresearch or qnotables.com. Notables do not equal endorsements. We are researchers who deal in open source information, reasoned argument, and dank memes. We do battle in the sphere of ideas and ideas only. We neither need nor condone the use of force in our work here.
From the Q Research Boards, June 4th, 2026. Good morning. This is Qnotables 4 a.m. Talking Points Live, and we are opening with California, where President Donald Trump is accusing Democrats of major election cheating after slow vote counts in the California governor's primary and the Los Angeles mayoral race. California mail-in ballots can continue arriving through June 9 if postmarked by Election Day, with final certification not due until July. Trump says the delays are not normal. The U.S. Attorney's Office in Los Angeles is now involved, and the fight has become bigger than one race. This is now a national battle over mail ballots, election timelines, and whether the public can trust the count. Trump is also saying Democrats are trying to steal the California governor primary and the Los Angeles mayoral primary through late-arriving mail ballots. The governor's race has Steve Hilton and Xavier Becerra near the top, while Tom Steyer remains in the mix. In Los Angeles, Mayor Karen Bass has advanced to a runoff, while Spencer Pratt and Nithya Raman are fighting for the second slot. These races remain unsettled because large numbers of mail ballots are still being processed. President Trump signed a new round of America First executive orders on June 3, including action aimed at increasing accountability inside the federal workforce. The order targets senior federal employees who influence policy and places them under a new schedule policy/career category. The administration says the goal is simple. Federal employees who shape policy must follow the lawful direction of the elected president. This is a direct move against the protected bureaucracy that has resisted presidential control for years. The Trump administration is moving roughly 8,000 federal positions into that new schedule policy/career category. The change makes it easier to remove senior federal employees who help shape policy but refuse to carry out lawful orders. The White House says this is about accountability and restoring constitutional control over the executive branch. Federal worker groups are preparing legal challenges, but the administration is making clear that policy power must answer to elected leadership. The Justice Department has announced a $300 million Model Cities initiative aimed at restoring law and order in selected cities. DOJ says the program will support law enforcement partnerships, local public safety efforts, and crime reduction strategies. The administration is framing this as a direct investment in cities willing to cooperate with federal law enforcement priorities. In plain terms, cities that want help restoring order are now being given a path to get it. Dan Scavino posted that President Trump had an announcement at the White House and congratulated the Justice Department and Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche. Reporting around the announcement says Trump intends to nominate Blanche as permanent Attorney General after his time as acting Attorney General. The move places Blanche at the center of Trump's Justice Department and signals that DOJ's current direction is not temporary. The Trump administration has canceled plans for a $1.8 billion anti-weaponization fund, with acting Attorney General Todd Blanche confirming the decision. The fund had drawn major political and legal attention. The administration is treating the cancellation as a reset, while the larger fight over government weaponization continues. The central question remains whether federal power was used against political targets and how that abuse gets corrected. The Senate Judiciary Committee is demanding that the DOJ and FBI release FISA materials tied to Trump advisor Walid Phares. The request follows reporting that Phares was secretly wiretapped under multiple FISA warrants during the Russia investigation. The core issue is whether the FISA court was misled and whether federal surveillance powers were abused against another Trump campaign advisor. This keeps the Russia investigation, the FISA process, and government spying back in the center of the story. General Michael Flynn is again raising the question of who leaked his Kislyak phone call transcripts. Those calls became central to the Russia investigation and were later declassified and released. Flynn says leaking the transcripts was a serious felony. The unresolved question is who inside the government or transition circle put classified intercept information into the press and why that person has not been held accountable. President Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance are promoting a federal anti-fraud campaign they say has exposed billions in stolen or wasted taxpayer money. The White House says the task force to eliminate fraud is targeting scammers, corrupt operators, and abuse inside government programs. The administration is presenting the effort as both budget reform and law enforcement. Trump says Democrats are fighting the fraud hunt, even though exposing fraud should be a bipartisan mission. Federal auditors are expanding scrutiny of Medicaid-funded autism treatment programs. HHS watchdog materials show concern over questionable billing patterns and improper payments tied to applied behavior analysis services for children with autism. A separate federal audit already flagged hundreds of millions in potentially improper payments across several states. This has now become a major healthcare fraud story, with state programs, contractors, and billing systems under federal attention. Senator Ron Johnson held a Capitol Hill hearing focused on COVID-19 vaccine safety and allegations that federal health agencies suppressed data or interfered with research. The hearing included discussion of possible cancer-related mechanisms and broader concerns about transparency. Johnson says Americans deserve answers from the same agencies that made sweeping public health decisions. The larger issue is trust, data, and whether the public was told the full truth. The Justice Department is reviewing Islamic honor-based violence concerns involving U.S. Muslim immigrant communities. The issue is being framed around both potential victims and possible perpetrators, with federal attention focused on violence, coercion, and family-based abuse. The matter could become a formal national enforcement initiative if DOJ moves forward. The focus is protecting victims and confronting violent cultural practices that have no place under American law. The Justice Department has secured a superseding indictment against the Southern Poverty Law Center. Reports say the updated case includes new allegations involving donor funds and financial misconduct. The case is now moving from political controversy into federal criminal court, where the evidence, the money trail, and internal controls will be tested. For an organization that made a living labeling others, the spotlight is now pointed directly back at itself. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is taking the transgender military service fight to the Supreme Court after an appeals court ruled against the administration's ban for current service members. Hegseth responded with a direct message, "See you at SCOTUS." The legal fight now moves toward the nation's highest court, where the administration will argue over military readiness, executive authority, and the limits of court intervention in defense policy. Seattle Councilmember Bob Kettle says Mayor Katie Wilson is violating city law by delaying activation of CCTV cameras ahead of the World Cup. Kettle argues the cameras are a public safety tool that should be ready before international crowds arrive. The fight centers on crime prevention, surveillance policy, and whether Seattle is prepared for a major global event. With the World Cup approaching, public safety planning is no longer theoretical. Now to election integrity. California's vote-by-mail rules allow ballots to be received through June 9 if they were postmarked by Election Day. Ballots are then counted during the official canvass period, with counties required to complete final official results by July 2. That timeline explains why close California races can remain unresolved for days or weeks. It also explains why voters are demanding more transparency when major races appear stuck in slow motion. Steve Hilton is leading in California's open governor primary as vote counting continues. Hilton is running on affordability, lower costs, and a challenge to California's Democratic establishment. Trump has congratulated Hilton and urged support for his campaign. California's top two primary means the two leading candidates advance regardless of party, which makes every late ballot update critical. Spencer Pratt has become one of the biggest surprises in the Los Angeles mayoral race. Mayor Karen Bass has advanced to the runoff, but Pratt is fighting for the second slot against Nithya Raman as ballots continue to be counted. Pratt's campaign is being powered by outsider energy, social media attention, and voter frustration with city leadership. Los Angeles politics may have just been hit by a major outsider disruption. A clip circulating online shows MSNBC cutting away during coverage involving Spencer Pratt supporters. Conservative outlets are framing it as a media panic moment during Pratt's unexpected rise in the Los Angeles mayoral race. The larger story is that Pratt's candidacy has become impossible for national media to ignore. Whether they like it or not, he is now part of the race narrative. A Los Angeles mayoral election map has become a focus for political watchers as the Bass, Pratt, and Rahman race remains unsettled. With California still counting mail ballots, every update matters. The race is now a live test of voter frustration in Los Angeles, and whether an outsider candidate can break through in a deeply Democratic city. The map is not just showing votes, it is showing where the political pressure is building. Los Angeles County residents are preparing legal action if election tampering occurs in the mayoral or governor races. The slow ballot count and close races are fueling legal threats, public suspicion, and demands for transparency. The message from voters is straightforward. If anyone tampers with the count, they want names, records, and lawsuits. The pressure is now on California officials to prove the process is clean. Steve Hilton also held his California gubernatorial push in the national spotlight after early results put him near the top of the primary field. Hilton, a former Fox host and former advisor to David Cameron, is campaigning on affordability, lower costs, and a direct challenge to Sacramento's political machine. The race remains open while ballots are still being counted, but Hilton has already turned the contest into a national story.
Start your day right with Ahoy the Ship Show, where real talk meets real energy. No fluff, no filter, just stories, opinions, and moments that matter. Catch us live Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern. Your daily launch point for what you need to know, and a few things you didn't. Friday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern. Switch gears with Night Owl News Archives. A laid-back dive into the week's biggest headlines and hidden gems. Miss a show? Visit don'tdeletemebro.com for notes, highlights, and extras. Tap in or get left behind.
At shop.isitwaya.com, everything you buy supports Qn.top, the place where people talk freely no matter what. Check out our Qn Honey Pot, a jar of yummy honey that's as strong as your voice. Put it on toast or in tea. It's not just honey, it's freedom in every bite. Then there's Qn Butter, a smooth handmade skin cream that makes you feel good while you fight for what's right. Awesome wooden pieces for display only. Hang them up or set them out. They're for showing off Qn's tough spirit. Want to help even more? Get a proto membership. So go to shop.isitwaya.com now and grab some goodies. Help Qn.top keep free speech alive, and let's keep the ideas flowing loud and free.
All reports can be found on QResearch or Qnotables.com. Notables do not equal endorsements. We are researchers who deal in open source information, reasoned argument, and dank memes. We do battle in the sphere of ideas and ideas only. We neither need nor condone the use of force in our work here.
From the Q Research Board's June 4, 2026, now to international conflict. President Trump says the United States could continue military pressure on Iran, but he would rather secure a deal than escalate further. The Iran conflict remains tied to nuclear talks, regional attacks, and congressional pressure over war powers. The White House is arguing that strength brought Tehran to the table, while Congress is trying to limit further military action. The administration's message is pressure first, deal second, war only if necessary. The House narrowly passed a war powers resolution aimed at blocking continued U.S. military action against Iran without congressional approval. The vote was 215 to 208, with 4 Republicans joining Democrats. The resolution now heads to the Senate. The message from the House is that Congress wants to reclaim a role in war authority, while Trump continues to argue that the commander-in-chief must have room to act. A California tech executive has been arrested on federal charges alleging he supplied U.S. equipment to Iran's nuclear and military establishment. DOJ says Jamshid Gomi, a dual U.S.-Iranian national, helped move restricted technology to Iran for more than a decade. The case puts export controls, sanctions enforcement, and national security technology back in the spotlight. It also raises a blunt question: how much American technology has already reached hostile programs? CENTCOM continues reporting aggressive Iranian activity across the region, including drone and maritime threats. U.S. Central Command says American forces have acted in self-defense against Iranian radar, command and control sites, and non-compliant vessels. The military picture remains unstable, with Iran, U.S. forces, and regional partners operating in a high-risk environment. Every move in the region now carries the possibility of escalation. Ukraine says it struck a Russian warship at a Baltic fleet base and released drone footage of the attack. The strike reportedly targeted a Russian corvette and came as Ukraine also hit infrastructure near St. Petersburg. Kiev is using long-range drone operations to pressure Russian military and energy assets far from the front lines. The message from Ukraine is that Russia's rear areas are no longer safe. Ukraine launched drone strikes near St. Petersburg as Russia opened its major economic forum, often called Putin's Davos. Reports say targets included oil infrastructure, a naval base, and other strategic sites. The timing was highly symbolic. While Moscow tried to project economic strength, Ukraine showed it can still hit deep inside Russian territory. President Vladimir Putin is expected to deliver a major speech at the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum on June 5. Kremlin aide Yuri Ushakov says Putin will take part in the forum's main plenary session. The speech comes as Russia faces Ukrainian drone strikes, economic pressure, and renewed attention from foreign delegations. Putin will try to project control, while Ukraine keeps proving the war can reach inside Russia. Israel and Lebanon have agreed to a new U.S. brokered ceasefire framework that requires Hezbollah to withdraw from areas south of the Litani River. Hezbollah was not directly part of the agreement, and fighting has continued despite the deal. The ceasefire's success depends on whether Lebanon's army can control the zone and whether Hezbollah complies. The southern Lebanon front remains one of the most dangerous flashpoints in the region. An Israeli strike near Jabal Amal Hospital in Tyre, Lebanon, killed 4 people and wounded 127, according to reports. Israel says it was targeting Hezbollah infrastructure, not the hospital. The strike is part of a wider pattern of attacks around medical facilities in southern Lebanon, raising pressure on both Israel and Hezbollah as ceasefire talks continue. The human cost of the northern front is growing. The United States has reaffirmed Somalia's sovereignty and territorial integrity, dealing a setback to Somaliland's push for international recognition. The move also complicates Israel's earlier recognition of Somaliland as an independent state. Washington's position keeps the U.S. aligned with the broader international consensus that Somaliland remains part of Somalia. The decision shows that regional recognition fights are now tied directly into U.S., Israeli, and African policy. General Dan Kane, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, visited Caracas, Venezuela, for his first official trip there. Defense imagery says he met with U.S. embassy personnel and senior interim government leaders. The visit signals growing U.S. military and diplomatic attention on Venezuela during a period of regional uncertainty. Venezuela remains a strategic pressure point in America's own hemisphere. A senior official from Germany's AfD met with top Kremlin-linked figures in St. Petersburg, including Gazprom chief Alexei Miller and Russian investment official Kirill Dmitriev. The discussions reportedly focused on energy, economic cooperation, and possible renewed business dialogue. The meetings show how German energy politics and Russia policy remain deeply connected, even while Europe remains divided over Moscow. Russian investment official Kirill Dmitriev says he discussed restarting business dialogue with AfD Deputy Chairman Markus Frohnmayer. Dmitriev publicly said he looked forward to building a future with AfD, calling it Germany's most popular party. The comments come as Moscow works to rebuild foreign political and economic channels despite sanctions and the Ukraine war. Russia is clearly looking for openings inside Europe. 3 Royal Navy personnel died in a helicopter crash during a training exercise in Devon, England. The aircraft was a Merlin Mark IV, and the crash occurred near Sorton during early morning training. British military officials say an investigation is underway, and the families of the dead have been notified. It is a deadly reminder that training missions carry real risk, even far from the battlefield. Former MI6 chief Sir Alex Younger has died at age 62 after battling cancer. Younger led Britain's Secret Intelligence Service from 2014 to 2020 and was the longest-serving MI6 chief in decades. British officials praised his service in intelligence, counterterrorism, and national security during a period of major global instability. His death closes a major chapter in British intelligence leadership.
Don'tDeleteMeBro.com. Don't delete me bro.com. 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 Share the site with others. Don't delete me bro.com. Don't delete me bro.com. Don't delete me bro.com. Share the site with others. Don't delete me bro.com.
All reports can be found on QResearch or Qnotables.com. Notables do not equal endorsements. We are researchers who deal in open source information, reasoned argument, and dank memes. We do battle in the sphere of ideas and ideas only. We neither need nor condone the use of force in our work here.
From the Q Research Board's June 4, 2026 now to crime and justice. Federal authorities in California ended a long hostage standoff in Bakersfield after the FBI fatally shot the suspect. The man had taken hostages inside a downtown building and claimed to have explosives. Officials say the hostages were rescued unharmed. The case is now under investigation, including the suspect's motive and whether the device was real. The 15-hour hostage crisis in Bakersfield forced major lockdowns downtown before federal tactical teams moved in and killed the suspect. Authorities say the suspect held multiple hostages and made demands tied to prior legal grievances. The rescue ended without hostage deaths, but the case shows how quickly a local crisis can become a federal operation when hostages, explosives claims, and public safety collide. A Pakistani appellate court has upheld death sentences for 2 men convicted in the 2020 motorway gang rape case involving a French woman attacked in front of her children. The case shocked Pakistan and triggered national protests. The ruling keeps in place convictions tied to rape, kidnapping, robbery, and terrorism charges. The court's message is that the brutality of the crime demands the harshest penalty available under Pakistani law. New reporting is revisiting the Pakistan motorway gang rape case after the Lahore High Court upheld the death sentences of the convicted men. The victim's car had run out of fuel before she was attacked in front of her children. The case remains one of Pakistan's most notorious examples of violent crime and public outrage over victim blaming. Years later, the ruling is still being watched as a test of justice. 15 men in Bradford, England, have been sentenced to a combined 188 years in prison for child sexual exploitation and rape. West Yorkshire police say the survivor was abused between the ages of 14 and 18. The case involved years of investigation and multiple trials. The sentencing puts another grooming gang case back in the spotlight and raises hard questions about how these crimes were allowed to continue for so long. Legal action is expanding around Pfizer's Depo-Provera contraceptive injection, with claims that some women developed meningioma brain tumors after using the drug. The FDA added a warning about possible meningioma risk earlier this year. The lawsuits focus on whether patients were properly warned about long-term risks connected to repeated exposure. Big Pharma is once again facing questions about disclosure, safety, and accountability. Federal scrutiny of Muslim Brotherhood-linked networks is increasing after the U.S. designated the Egyptian and Jordanian branches of the Muslim Brotherhood for material support to Hamas. Separate policy analysis is examining how Islamist financial networks may use charities, investment channels, crypto, and informal transfer systems to move money. The central issue is how extremist-linked funding moves through legal-looking systems. Now to tech, markets, and the economy. Broadcom lost hundreds of billions in market value after its revenue forecast disappointed investors. The company remains a major player in AI chips, but Wall Street wanted stronger near-term guidance. Even with large AI revenue growth, the market reaction shows how high expectations have become across the semiconductor sector. In the AI trade, good numbers are no longer enough if the forecast does not beat expectations. Trump accounts are drawing attention as a new savings and investment vehicle for children. The Treasury rollout includes a $1,000 seed deposit for eligible children and tax-deferred investment growth. Financial analysts are examining whether the structure could create long-term retirement planning opportunities, including eventual Roth IRA conversion strategies. The program could become a major household finance story if families use it early and consistently. A new policy discussion at the American Enterprise Institute is focused on reining in America's national debt. The event brings together lawmakers and policy experts to address the scale of the debt crisis. With federal debt still on an unsustainable path, the The debate is shifting from warnings to specific spending, tax, and budget reforms. The country is running out of room for empty talk on debt. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are back in the spotlight after President Trump said he was seriously considering taking the mortgage giants public. The companies have remained under government conservatorship since the 2008 financial crisis. A public offering could raise major funds, but it would require complex decisions from Treasury, FHFA, and the White House. Housing finance may be heading for one of its biggest changes in years. Sandia National Laboratories and its partners have reached a technical milestone testing next silicon chips for future supercomputing. The effort is aimed at diversifying high-performance computing technology and improving energy efficiency. As AI demand strains chip supply, national labs are looking beyond the usual vendors for mission-critical computing power. The race for compute power is now a national security issue. Lockheed Martin says it successfully intercepted a Group 3 attack drone using a joint air-to-ground missile fired from its Grizzly containerized launcher. The test marks a first for that counter-drone setup and was assembled on a fast timeline. The result points to growing demand for mobile systems that can defeat unmanned aircraft. Drone warfare is changing the battlefield, and counter-drone weapons are now a priority. D-Tweam. The American Bar Association remains under pressure over diversity, equity, and inclusion policies. Its Law School Accrediting Council recently voted to eliminate a DEI rule for law schools, while the ABA continues hosting equity-focused programming through its Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Center. The organization is trying to navigate legal, political, and professional pressure all at once. DEI is no longer just an internal policy debate. It is now a national legal fight. Cardinal Robert McElroy has removed Monsignor Stephen Rossetti from the Washington Archdiocese's exorcist roles after Rossetti linked UFO sightings to demonic activity. McElroy said the comments undermined church teaching on demons and exorcism. Rossetti expressed regret and said he remains committed to obedience to the church. The story sits at the intersection of faith, authority, and public claims about the supernatural. Barry Weiss is facing a major internal media fight at CBS News after the firing of longtime 60 Minutes correspondent Scott Pelley. Pelley accused network leadership of pushing falsehoods and bias into reporting, while Weiss defended the decision in a staff meeting. The clash has turned into a public battle over the future of 60 Minutes. Legacy media is now fighting itself in public. Scott Pelley has been fired from 60 Minutes after a public clash with CBS leadership. Pelley accused the network of undermining journalism and pressuring him to include falsehoods and bias. CBS leadership says the firing followed a breakdown in trust. The dispute is now one of the biggest media shakeups of the year and another sign that confidence in corporate newsrooms is breaking down. Greta Thunberg is facing renewed criticism online over claims that she has shifted her position on fossil fuels. What is clear is that Thunberg remains publicly involved in campaigns against oil and fossil fuel expansion. The debate around her shows how climate activism continues to collide with energy reality, public fatigue, and accusations of hypocrisy. Victor Davis Hanson is warning that American fascism, in his view, would not look crude or obvious. He says it would look polished, elite, socially acceptable, and protected by institutions. Hanson names figures like Barack Obama and Zoran Mamdani in that critique. His argument is part of a broader conservative debate over power, censorship, bureaucracy, and political language. Secretary of State Marco Rubio pushed back during a House hearing after Democrats questioned him on matters he dismissed as unserious while national security issues were on the table. Rubio was testifying amid the Iran conflict and broader foreign policy pressure. The exchange became another example of congressional hearings turning into political theater, while serious threats demand serious answers. Scott Bessent is drawing attention online after a viral exchange in which supporters say he forcefully pushed back during a public appearance. The clip is being shared as a sign that Trump's economic team is willing to fight aggressively for its agenda. The larger issue is economic credibility, debt, inflation, and whether the administration's financial strategy can deliver results for working Americans. That is the rundown this morning. California's elections are under the microscope. Trump is moving against the bureaucracy. DOJ is pushing law and order priorities. Iran remains a live pressure point. Ukraine is striking deeper into Russia. And the media, tech, and financial systems are all facing stress at the same time. Stay sharp, stay informed, and keep watching the Notables.
Every voice matters. The power of free speech is more important than ever. Imagine a place where you can share your thoughts freely, explore new ideas, and engage in meaningful conversations anonymously. With online anonymity, you can express yourself without fear of judgment. It's about freedom, creativity, and connection. Join the conversation that matters. Embrace your voice. Celebrate your freedom. Visit 8kun.top today. That's 8kun.top.
That's all for now. Stay alert, stay informed, and never hand your thinking over to anyone on a screen, including me. God bless you, God bless our troops, and God bless the United States of America. See you soon.